You're tuned into the Red Pill, your daily dose of knowledge.
The music called jazz.
The black man or the lack of black men in the home is an institutional thing.
Absolutely.
It's a deliberate thing.
There's always
I was born and raised in Oceanside, California, over 50% white. Because of that, there were a lot of hardships. I had low self-esteem because I hated myself every day. I hated white people every day.
You know, we've been conditioned to believe the same thing.
My name is Jonathan Henderson, and I am the Red Pill.
I was raised in South Central Los Angeles, born and raised. My city is a trap. It's an escape from all of that. We tell the truth. We tell why it's the way it is in our community.
In high school, when we learn about other people, you know, myself included and my friends, we were always wondering, like, okay, so we have one page about Martin Luther King. We have one page about slavery. I know there was some other people. How did we get here to where we are?
My name is Jamel Fortuné, and I am the Red Pill.
my upbringing was a little different from most people. I've always been different. Always wanted to help the youth. I've always been involved in education and community development.
If the youth had more grandmothers and more great-grandmothers to pass down that wisdom, then we would be doing better off.
I was raised in Compton. You know what I mean? What do you think when you think of Compton?
I would say another major disconnect between the elders and the youth is the elders didn't pass down the knowledge.
I'm tired of negative things being said about black people, black youth, and especially people from Compton. It's quality in Compton.
I'm your host, Akia She, and you're tuned into The Red Pill. Welcome back to The Red Pill. I'm your host, Akia She, and this is my co-host,
Jonathan Henderson.
And Jamel Fortuné.
and today's guest is upcoming artist Furious Styles.
What's up? Power to the people.
So, Furious, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm from Washington, D.C. I moved out to L.A. in April, so I'm now about 2 months.
Oh, you fresh.
Yeah, it's fresh out here, enjoying it. It's
The fresh out. Usual fresh out.
Yeah, from Washington, D.C. I was born in D.C., but I was raised in Maryland. I went to school in Maryland. Basically, D.C. is just like one of the tough. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak for any other towns in, I can only speak for my own hometown, but it was just, it definitely trained me. You know what I mean? It definitely is a battlefield. But I moved out here to pursue music and basically to kind of like break away from the plantation, and so to speak. You know what I mean? So I've been out here, been networking, things been looking up, sun's been shining a lot brighter.
Today's topic is going to be fatherless homes and the effects on black males. How are black males being affected by fatherless homes?
Well, one reason black men are affected by fatherless homes is that because they never get to see a father, it's kind of hard to become one. You know what I mean? I think to be a man, you kind of have to see a man, and because the man is not around, young black youth go out to look for other sources to look for as mentors and as role models, and unfortunately sometimes they choose, not the best example. So, I just feel as though it's just a domino effect in the household of the black man, and a lot of his insecurities and where his masculinity comes from. It's not really identifying with a real man or seeing one in his life. So it's a lot of effects to that.
Is there a difference between black men who are raised by strong mothers in addition or in comparison to black men who are raised by strong men? Like, is there a difference in the man? Because they say there's like a study that goes basically how black women spoil their sons, kind of protect them and spoil their sons because they know that, society has a lot of pressure, especially on black men. So they don't really, they kind of raise their daughters and kind of let their sons slide. Like, how do you feel about that? And how does that affect black men?
Well, it's like I said before, like I think that to be a man, you kind of have to see a man. Like, women, can raise a man the best way she can, but at the end of the day, I mean, we kind of have a generation of that, of like a lot of men that were raised by women. And not to say that they're not strong men, but they've kind of adapted a lot of feminine characteristics along with it. You know what I mean? Like jealousy, vanity, selfishness. Like a lot of that, I think, comes from just not having that balance, that man to teach him that discipline. You know what I mean? And that firmness and that masculinity and that security. So I think that it's good and it's bad. It's like a catch-22. You know what I mean? So I think that just having someone in your life though, period, that loves you unconditionally, no matter what gender, is still good. So.
I understand. Well, thank you for that. John, would you like to expound on that?
I think too, it comes from the mother kind of having to play two roles in the household. Yeah. She has to play the role of the father, and she has to play the role of the mother. Right. And so she goes out and works 2 jobs. You know what I mean? And she comes home to take care of the kids, and they see that. But what does the media portray of a woman? The media portrays a woman to be submissive, to stay at home, to be nurturing and caring. Right. But this mother has to play 2 roles. Right. You know what I mean? And so it's interesting to see how that plays out, to where you have a lot of black men who don't really like, as they grow older, who don't really like, quote unquote, strong black women. They're still looking for that specific stereotype, the submissive, the nurturing, the caring. And maybe now that I think of it, maybe it's a kind of a need that hasn't been met. Because if you're working all day just to bring home ends meet because you love your son, right. You don't really have a lot of time to be caring and nurturing in that way. Right. You know what I mean? Right. And so you have to work. Right. And sometimes that's manual. Like right. it's not you're not going, you're not like a professor in school. You're not a lot of those things. And so a lot of times a lot of men don't get that. Right. And so they seek it in other places.
And I just to basically veggie back on that, as I like to say, I'm just speaking from as a young woman, having a father absent in the home, it definitely affects your womanhood. Because, like he said, the same way how a young black male won't have an example of the type of man to be, the type of father to be, learning about like taking out the trash, our responsibilities, or how to take care of your woman, or how to be responsible, a woman also misses that. Like, we miss how to choose a man. And that's why you have a lot of young ladies out here who are with men who are abusive verbally, mentally, and emotionally, because it's like, well, I never had anybody to compare who I should be dating to, because my father was absent. So it's just a free-for-all, you know what I mean? Because had I had that prototype, had I had that father who was active and who said, look, baby girl, if he's not coming to the table with this, leave him alone. But I mean, when you're not taught that, it's just like, oh, well, he took me to Chili's and he rubs my feet. That's enough for him to get some. And the standards are so low because any type of kind gesture that a man extends to you is enough. Because you were never taught that, no, a man will actually do more for you. Like, honestly, it's a little secret. The longer you hold out the woo nanny, the more a man will do. I mean, is that, you know what I mean? But young girls are not being taught that. We're taught to come to the table giving it up off the table, off the jump. And that will, in turn, keep him. And a lot of us had to learn the hard way that doesn't work. Like, would you like to expound on that?
I was lucky enough to have my father in my life for 13 years. He passed away 1 week before my 13th birthday. And my mother used to always tell me, do you remember what your father told you as you're growing up? Do you remember? Take those things because he lives on through you. And I do take those things into consideration. And when I do that, when I see young girls who do what Akia says, I try to mend them and tell them, hey, my father was around. He shared this information with me, so I'm going to share it with you. And that's another thing that we have to do. If you see somebody who's in a predicament who maybe have not had their father around, if they're a woman or a man, help them out, right. Guide them. That's the best thing that I can suggest,
The black man, or the lack of black men in the home, is an institutional thing.
Absolutely.
It's a deliberate thing.
There's always invisible
And so you
hands.
have, the prison industrial complex.
Right.
You have, black backlash from, 90s pre-welfare policies, like pre-welfare reform policies, where you had welfare where the man could not be in the home if you had to if you were going to receive welfare. Right. He couldn't be there. His draws couldn't be there. Right. If they went in and saw that, you're done.
Right.
You know what I mean? You have, I was talking to one guy one time, and he told me a story about how, you know, his great grandfather back in, you know, the 60s and 50s was lynched, and because of that, his father didn't. I mean, you know, his grandfather didn't have a father, and he couldn't be a good father to his son, who couldn't be a good father to him. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so it's not necessarily that, you know, the black man is just choosing to leave.
Right.
There's a lot of institutional things here too,
Absolutely.
to where, you know, it's set up that way
Right.
from the jump.
Definitely.
So, you know, I think it comes with education, not schooling, education, knowing
Right.
who you are.
Right.
It
Right.
comes with seeing the traps
Right.
that the enemy sets for us,
Right.
so that we can stay where we need to be.
And also, I would say this, because like we're not just about throwing facts out there or throwing information out there and not giving you anything to digest and not giving you anything or ways that you could implement and change. I would say, like, as far as black women, I'm speaking as a black woman, like, I would never tell a black woman to tell a man, you know, he has to be a father. Obviously, you lay down, you got her pregnant, you know that you a pops. But you may only know that in theory. You may only know that because you laid down and she's pregnant. But it, like you said, it may not really have resonated that, yo, damn, I'm a father. Right. And I figure some black women, I think that we need to start, I don't want to say encouraging, but I'll use that word for lack of better words, encouraging or being easier. Because I've been in some scenarios where there were some black fathers who wanted to be fathers, but the mother,
Exactly.
you know what I mean? So we got to start looking at ourselves. The mother kept the child away for reasons that had nothing to do with the child's well-being.
Right.
Oh, he got a new female, F him.
Right.
Or, you know, oh, he does this. Or maybe his religion is different. Oh, he you know, he from the nations of gods and earths now, and I want my child around that. Right. What does that have to do with him in a relationship with his father? Mm-hmm. So I think that that's another thing, aside from systematic. Black women, we have to stay out of the business. The relationship between him and his father don't have nothing to do with you.